Well, TGIF, thank God it's Friday, and thank goodness it's a fresh edition of ESPN FC Live, and thank goodness, look at my crew here today. Oh, I cannot wait to pick your brains, gentlemen. I've got LME, mi hermano peruano, and I've got my English brother from another mother. Bit Scottish, bit Geordie, Don's everything. We love the mix-up and splendor, as we say in Jamaica. Don Hutchison joining us as well. Plenty to get to, and we're going to start straight with La Liga because Barcelona have officially wrapped up the league. They have got a title. Hansi Flick in his first season in charge, definitely doing absolute bits. And gentlemen, this probably is not that much of a surprise because Barcelona have really entertained us this season. I mean, unless you really like staunch defending, Barcelona have really entertained us in terms of going forward and playing some really good football this season. So before everybody gets their knickers in a bunch, we are going to do, and look, we're being forced to do this, guys, from our other producer. We are doing a way too early La Liga preview. Yes, we're going to try and talk about next season when this season isn't even officially done yet, but it kind of is with Barcelona winning. But don't worry, there is method to our madness. So the first angle I guess we want to take with this one is on Barcelona. Don, let me come to you first. No arguments, right, that Barcelona absolutely deserve this title.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've been the best team. I can remember going back to the first 6 games of the start of La Liga, scored 22 goals, unbeaten, beaten teams 5s, beaten teams 7s. It feels like Hansi Flick now has given Barca their true team back, their fans. It feels as though he's really given the true Barcelona the way they play, the way they excite, the way they control games. They've got the stardust. They're super attacking, super high line, which at times can be costly. But when you watch them, it's an absolute joy to watch the way Hansi Flick's had this Barcelona team winning the league this season in absolute style.
I have to agree with that one. And our other Luis, as in Luis Garcia, who loves his sangria, he made the prediction that Barcelona were going to win this season, whereas everybody else, I think, on ESPN FC, not me, actually predicted, Real Madrid. Why not? We know who they are. But with that impending arrival of Mbappe, everyone thought, oh my days, after how Madrid finished off last season, now you get easily one of the best players in the world to join this Galactico team. Surely they were only going to get better and better, but it was Barca, LME, who definitely spoiled their party, and they have been complaining a lot this season, Los Blancos. But like I said, let's talk Barca. Did this surprise you? And definitely a deserving title win for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me begin with Lucho Garcia here. He was never going to pick Madrid anyway, so I'm not even going to call him that much of a sayer, okay? He was always going with Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid obviously was going to challenge that. Echoing everything that Don said, this is a tremendous season from Barcelona for many reasons. Hansi Flick's debut season. If we rewind to the summer, there were many issues with Barca, right? Mm-hmm. We were talking about the fact that Real Madrid, as you mentioned, brought in Kylian Mbappe, Florentino Perez, continuing with his mission of creating a new modern era of the Galacticos. We didn't know the status of Barcelona, what was going to happen, of course, going into the season. They have the youngest squad in Spain, which is remarkable. And throughout the course of the season, as Don was saying, Hansi Flick implemented this very high line, gambling, do or die, nothing approach that paid off. And the reason it paid off is because everybody believed in his system. He completely revolutionized training, made them fitter, hungrier, better eating habits. They became more cohesive. I'm hearing from our reporters like Sam Marsden and Mo Llorens how the man management was second to none. During the European Championships, he was texting every single person in his squad that was playing in the competition, wishing them good luck. He also has a really good relationship with his staff as well. So he created this environment, Alexis, that really benefited Barcelona. But to do this with the youngest team in Spain is a remarkable achievement. And it's important. And many can say that, part of it was because of Real Madrid's issues and the inconsistency and too many cooks in the kitchen because Mbappe came to the squad. But no, you can't take anything away from this Barcelona side. Rafinha has already broken Messi's single-season record in terms of contributions. He's a Ballon d'Or contender. Lamine Yamal, I'm running out of things to talk about him. He is also a Ballon d'Or contender, a generational talent. But it's not just about him. Lewandowski, 40 goals this season as well. So he has completely improved this squad. Time will tell, and I'm sure you're going to get to this next question for Don about what's going to happen next season. But Barcelona absolutely deserve this campaign and a remarkable double for the club.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I'm going in terms of our too early La Liga season preview, because we're already thinking next season. And if Barcelona can sustain this, they've won a domestic treble. But if they're even to repeat the league, which is something that, even Pedri was asked after their win last night, if mentally they're even thinking how they can do this, because Don Elemi brought it up, and it's no secret. This is such a young team. We have seen it time and time again. We saw it from when Xavi had to rely on the youngsters as well. And look, Barca youngsters are not just your average youngsters. We do know this. Anyone coming from La Masia, we speak about Gavi and we speak about Pedri, and I forget that they're still youngsters because they've been around the block and they've won a lot already. But we also see how sometimes you run them down to the ground and they sustain long-term injuries like Gavi and Pedri. So Hansi Flick, in terms of where his head is at and building this team so that they can potentially at least win the La Liga title in back-to-back season, where do they need to strengthen? What do they need to do for next season?
Squad depth is going to be really important in terms of the signings, because isn't it amazing that you said about these young players who have played so many games and got so much experience, but they're still babies, which is going to be amazing because the majority of them are probably 6, 7, 8 years away from their prime. So you imagine these guys with 6 or 7 years more experience. Imagine how good they'll be when you find that know-how, which as footballers, we only get that when we've got experience. Once we've churned out 250 to 300 games, we get that light bulb moment where I can remember being a young boy at Liverpool and Graham Souness told me, he said, you need to slow down. You need to stop running. And I went, what do you mean stop running? He went, you do too much running. He went, one day you will let the game come to you. And I can remember walking out of his room and Jeremy Redknapp, my teammate, went, what did the gaffer say? And I went, I've got no idea. I don't know what he meant. Fast forward about 8 years, I'm standing at Upton Park playing in a game and the light bulb club above my head, stand still, let the game come to you. And it felt as though I was just standing still and everything was going through me. And I found the game really easy that night. But because of Graham Souness's words, when you get older, you will let the game come to you. And these Barca kids are just going to absolutely do that. Once they've got the confidence, which they've got, once they've got the experience, which they've got, now they've got the trophies in the cabinet, which they can then back up their youth and their performances and their style and how good they are. But I think, to answer your question, I think what he's probably got to do now, Hansi Flick, is probably add that little bit more experience. And when I mean experience, I mean older guys that have been there and done it. I remember Gary McAllister going to Liverpool. Fantastic example. I think he went there when he was 35, 36, but he was a voice inside the dressing room just to telling the players to calm down. And he was chipping in every other game. Wasn't starting every game, but he was just a voice and a leader on top of what the manager had at the time to be that leader inside of the dressing room. Maybe Hansi Flick might be thinking, well, the talent is there. I don't need to improve too much because these kids are going to fly in years to come. Let me just add that little bit more experience to them.
Well, squad depth definitely needed. Elemi, let me come to you on this one in terms of who you think Hansi Flick should target, and leave it to Elemi to find an Aston Villa link in this. Already rumors, but I want to say Aston Villa / Manchester United link. And it could be Marcus Rashford, Barcelona. Elemi, explain.
Well, we have had reports for a while now, and I do have some intel on the fact that Barcelona do have Marcus Rashford as an interest, and it's more of a wish list. It's not necessarily that there's an official petition or anything like that, and that's not
Rashford's wish list. Is that Rashford's wish list of
Barcelona? Actually, it is. Yeah, Rashford's number one option before going to Villa was leaving the Premier League. He wanted to just go somewhere else and try to replenish his career. Barcelona has always been a target of his. So, you're joking, but you're correct, Don. It's definitely a wish for Marcus Rashford as well. Barcelona reportedly also are kind of interested. But here's the issue. Number one, Deco has a lot to do this summer. So there's a lot of players that need to leave Barcelona for anything to happen. I think the likes of Ansu Fati perhaps might leave this summer as well. The backup keeper, Peña as well, he might leave. So there needs to be some room for that. Also, here's the thing, as we all know, Marcus Rashford, as you mentioned, Alexis, that he's on loan at Aston Villa from Manchester United. His £375,000 a week contract is no slight figure, so that's going to be an issue. Villa do not have a first to right refusal in this loan, despite of what some reports may say. So anybody that comes in for 40 million and is willing to pay the wages might be able to do that. That's not necessarily Barcelona, because despite of how good they've done this season, financially, they still have to figure things out. There's a lot for them to do, economically speaking. So it's going to be intriguing for them to try and see what they do with an attacker, because Rashford or not, I agree with Don. The most important thing for Barcelona is to deepen their squad, because Lewandowski is not getting any younger. And Rafinha, as amazing as he has been, what happens during the course of a long season as well? 17-year-old Lamine Yamal as well. So they're going to need some offensive backup there. Also, in the midfield, Frankie de Jong's contract is up for renewal this summer. What happens there as well? So, there's a lot of things that they need to take care of, but I would suggest that the most immediate thing, if Deco had a wish list, is to make sure that you strengthen that trifecta, because Lewandowski, Rafinha, and Lamine Yamal are as good, as amazing as they are. They need a little bit more, in the course of a very long season, especially a Barcelona team that just does not stop runs more than anybody in La Liga.
Yeah, exactly. I think Pedri spoke about it again after the game yesterday. He just said that he didn't want to give too many tactic secrets away of their training sessions, but he said we run, and we run a lot, and we feel it now.
It's no secret, Pedri. You just run. Like, we get it.
Pedri literally has like 4 lungs on
I know.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And he's got his youthful exuberance. But oh my days, when you did say Marcus Rashford, I was like, if Aston Villa can't really find the money to put pen to papers, Barca is the last team I would expect. But they do know how to activate a financial lever. And it is some wonderful financial gymnastics that Barcelona do. I really need to take a page out of their books. But we're going to continue, of course, talking about Barcelona, I think, as the season fully winds down. But let's talk about Real Madrid, shall we? Because by their very high standards, this season has been an absolute fracaso, a failure. And we do know that. And look, it's not the end of the world. It's not like they're, facing relegation or finishing outside of Champions League spots. They still got far-ish done. They still made it to finals where they lost only to Barcelona and a treble-winning Barcelona. But still, I know that Florentino Perez will not be a happy camper once the season is all said and done. So Carlo Ancelotti looks set to leave to take over Brazil, which means that another Real Madrid legend in Xabi Alonso is set to join. We already know that he is leaving Bayer Leverkusen. So how much do you expect them to improve under? I understand he's won with Bayer Leverkusen and made history. But as we were talking about the other day, to win with Bayer Leverkusen and lose with Bayer Leverkusen is one thing. But to win and to lose with Real Madrid is a completely different kettle of fish, Don. So how much do you expect them to improve?
Oh, percentage-wise, I reckon about 25%. I think you'll get more out of them. I think it was the right move for Real Madrid to make on Carlo, and I think the right move for Carlo to go and try something different and manage Brazil. But I think what you're getting is you're getting a very bright manager now. I mean, without the tactical side of it, without being inside the Real Madrid training camp, which is obviously going to be very tactical, and it's fascinating when you hear managers do their team talks. But apparently, I think Carlo was more of a motivator in terms of saying to people like Jude, listen, go and enjoy yourself, go and impress. I think what Xabi Alonso is, he'll micromanage the players. He'll ask and he'll demand more of the players. You're getting a guy that's, as you said, he won the double. He was an invincible at Leverkusen, the first time ever in Bundesliga history. He stopped winning 12 in a row. I think the style of football that he plays, there's rumours today that Real Madrid have signed Dean Howson from Bournemouth for 50 million. So they've got him and Trent in for 50 million because Trent's on a free transfer on a Bosman. What a couple of signings that is, by the way, for only 50 million. So I think you'll get more out of Mbappe. I think you'll get more out of Vinny Jr. I look at the Real Madrid scenario, and I'm no manager, but I've worked in the game a long time. And I think the simple fix for Real Madrid is right in front of their eyes. I think it's move Vinny Jr. from the left to the right, because you can easily do that as a winger. You can play on both sides. So Vinny goes to play on the right-hand side. Kylian gets to play on the left-hand side where he wants to play and buy a number 9. I think that's probably Real Madrid's fix. It's quite simple as that. I really do. And then Valverde goes back into midfield. I think when you're talking about how to solve all these, and Jude goes back into midfield, when you're trying to sort of solve this puzzle, I honestly think it's quite a simple one. The manager once said to me, sometimes when you're under pressure and you can't see things as a manager, you can't see the wood for the trees. And he meant was the obvious is right in front of your eyes. And I honestly believe that might be the future. Vinny on the right, Kylian on the left, and go and buy a Galactico number 9.
Elami, what do you think? So Don says that he expects him to prove under Xabi by at least 25%, and that is pretty easy fixes. I mean, when you look at those names in that squad, it should be a manager's dream to be able to work with them. How do you see this going, though?
No, I agree with Don that he'll definitely improve them. And I also agree with the very good point that he's going to have a much more eagle eye on every single player and what he wants them to do on the pitch. Here's the thing that everybody needs to know about Xabi Alonso. He's an auteur. And what I mean by that is, as a manager, he is very, very detail-centric, the likes of Pep Guardiola, people like that, who really focus so much on where you need to be on the pitch the entire time. And that, under Carlo Ancelotti, has not really been a Real Madrid thing. Right? It's been more about, controlling when you have the ball and letting your freedom of talent go forward, which hasn't worked out collectively. So Xabi Alonso works with a 3-4-2-1 system. So it does. So for that reason, it makes sense of what Don is saying. If you want to move around, and I actually think my argument here is that Xabi Alonso is going to have to ask some very serious favors, or not even a favor because he's a manager. He's going to demand some of these players to maybe rethink tactically of what they're giving on the pitch. Whether that's, as Don was saying, then he moved from one wing and then they bring in a striker, or because it's a 3-4-2-1 system that Xabi Alonso likes to play, maybe he's asking Kylian Mbappe to drop a little in and then you bring a striker in. I don't know. The point is this. Individually speaking, Mbappe had a tremendous season, right? He broke Bam Zamorano's single season record of goals. So individually speaking, you can't ask more of him from an offensive standpoint. But Xabi Alonso is obsessed at what happens the moment you lose the ball, which is Real Madrid's biggest weakness, right? So that's going to be a really important thing. So now with Housen coming in, I think he's got a tremendous talent at the back. Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously, he's going to ask him to occupy a lot of that right-sided wing for Real Madrid. So it does make sense to maybe bring a striker now, a mobile one that can alleviate a lot of the issues. And Vinny Jr., also to move positions as well. But it's going to be really intriguing to see what happens. I have no doubt that Real Madrid will improve and they'll be better. Can they win La Liga in a brand new system, in a brand new demand by Xabi Alonso? That's a question that's yet to be answered.
Yes, indeed. Well, that news, of course, has still yet to be confirmed. But at this point, the moment that the days keep passing, it's becoming the world's worst kept secret. Come on, Xavi, announce it already. Announce him. Anyways, we're about 18 minutes in, and we were only speaking about Real Madrid and Barcelona. And guys, we have to talk Premier League because that is where a lot of loose ends have to be tied up, and it could start tonight. Let's talk about Manchester United and Spurs. Woo! Let's talk about Manchester.
Do we have to?
My days.
If it helps, it does include Villa for you.
Okay.
But Juan, let me come to you first, of course, because United and Spurs, of course, everybody's pretty much sold their house and home and remortgaged their house just to find the money to pay for the expensive flights and accommodation in Bilbao, because that is the Europa League final where, surprisingly, Manchester United will face Spurs, but they still have business to take care of in the Premier League. And more importantly, they have a lot of face to save in the Premier League because both of them hovering above the relegation zone. They're separated by just a point. United just ahead of Spurs. They're in action tonight. United against Chelsea. Villa going up against Spurs in this one. Do you see any of them getting anything out of tonight?
No.
And who needs the win more?
I don't. They've switched off. Man United, they've switched off. They've gone. Their minds are elsewhere. I mean, I find it remarkable that your mind has to switch to Europa League final when you've still got Premier League games to play. Yeah. I sort of semi-understand it because you don't want to get an injury, therefore you miss the final, therefore you diminish your chances of winning. I sort of get that. But this has not happened over the last fortnight. These two teams have been a shambles all season. I mean, between Man United and Spurs, they've lost 37 games. 38 games in the Premier League season. They've almost lost a Premier League season between them. It's nuts. I've never heard anything like it in my life. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in my life for two sides that are really top-end sides and really, really big clubs, humongous clubs, to have lost that amount of games. I mean, it's just remarkable. I mean, there's just no surprise every time Man United play now. And it wouldn't stun me. It wouldn't stun me tonight if Chelsea beat them by a distance and Villa beat Spurs by a distance. It might not be cruise control in terms of 4 or 5s, but it might be a lack of effort or a lack of putting your foot in or a lack of desire and a lack of playing for the badge on the front of the shirt. But I find it remarkable. These two teams are going into a Europa League final with a form that they've been in the Premier League. It's staggering.
Yeah, absolutely staggering. LME, your boys of Villa up against Spurs. Again, Don can't really make a case for Spurs up against the Villains. But how do you see tonight going? Who really just at least needs to put something good together before they head into this major final?
Yeah, but I mean, there, aside from the horrific display of seasons by both clubs, there's also injuries. Kulusevski's out as well. That's a big for Tottenham. Heung-min-Son should be available, but it doesn't really matter. Just the issue is that Tottenham are where they are because they deserve to be. The same with Manchester United. And this game is big for Aston Villa. It's the last home game of the season. Obviously, that continued push to try and make a top 5 remains. They're also angry about the fact that they're playing on Friday instead of Sunday, which was originally called, so they're going to be up for that. Villa haven't lost a game at home in the last 20 matches in all competitions, so I don't expect a Villa loss, and I expect Postecoglou to rotate a little bit for this Europa League final. So I don't really see a shocking result here from a Villa loss or anything like that. I just, or Chelsea losing to Manchester United, and we're about to see the worst Europa League final in history. Like that's just.
I think. See, LME. I think it's going to be the opposite. I think you look at it too.
It'll be fun. Yeah.
It's going to be 5-4. It's going to be nuts.
It'll be
amazing.
It'll be like a car accident, right? You can't help but look. Yeah.
But it's going to be a brilliant spectacle.
The real question, Alexis, is will the Europa League final at least save something for either club, right? Will they make it? And the way that I see it, well, the way that I see it is that I see it as a Band-Aid on that gunshot wound, right? Where or in the same way, let's say you're walking through the desert and you find a bottle of water. It may satisfy your thirst for that moment, but you still have to walk the desert. Meaning that Tottenham and Manchester United may win a trophy and it may give you some financial and you might get Champions League football. I mean, it makes me feel sick to just think that either club's going to play in the Champions League next season. But it doesn't mean that we solve the whole ongoing issue, which is both these clubs don't just need a change of fortune. They need a complete change of identity and culture. And I don't know if that, from a Tottenham perspective, if winning the Europa League even saves his job, to be honest with you, at this point, regardless of what happened. And with Ruben Amorim, I think I give him a little bit more just because he arrived in November, right? But this is Postecoglou's second season. And he refuses to be more pragmatic in his system. So, yeah, I agree, Don. I think it's going to be one of these beautiful car accidents. 5-4, fouls everywhere, terrible own goals. But it is, statistically speaking, per position, the worst Europa League final.
I think it's bigger. It feels bigger for Man United, this one. Don't forget when I was at Liverpool in 1990, it took Liverpool 30 years to win a title off the back of Stevie's games in 89 and how good they were in the 80s, how dominant they were, but it took them 30 years. This game for me feels as though it's slightly bigger for Man United because if they don't make the Champions League this year with a knock-on of PSR and the knock-on of how much money they're going to have in the summer, it feels as though Man United Champions League-wise in top 4, even though it's 5 this season, but top 4 generally making Champions League spots, they might not even make top 4 for 30 years. It feels as though it's so big for Man United. They have to win this trophy to get back into the Champions League this year to then give them more funds to strengthen and spend in the summer. While if Tottenham don't win one, yes, it would be huge for Postecoglou. It'd be massive for him to walk away with the trophy because he's not going to be staying on next season. I think we all, in terms of the Xabi Alonso, the worst kept secret, I think it's the same scenario for Ange Postecoglou. I think he'll probably walk whether he wins or loses it. But Tottenham, who have never won a Champions League, I don't think they'll miss it too much. It'd be nice for their fans to be in it and win a trophy, of course. But I just get the sense this is humongous for Man United in terms of their future.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say that as I remind everybody, I live 10 minutes away from Stamford Bridge and I had tickets to go tonight to support United, where I don't exactly hide where my loyalties lie. And I've elected to watch at home in the comfort.
No, bottle job.
I'm going to watch at home where I can continuously weep in private.
Yeah. And you know what? Stamford Bridge is a terrible stadium for environment. So don't worry about it. Just watch it at home.
But Stamford Bridge food.
Oh yeah, that's good. I agree.
Stamford Bridge media food.
Top three. Chef's kiss.
Sure. For me, probably top. But sadly, we digress because I mean, speaking of these two, just caused damage to my nervous system. Everyone's calling the Europa League final the dysfunctional Classico. We will see exactly what happens there for that one. But let's move on to the guys at the top of the table, shall we? The top 4. Obviously, Liverpool have, done their job. Arsenal pretty much as well. But in terms of Newcastle, City, Chelsea, even Villa, maybe even Forest as well, we could see what happens there. probably not. But who do you expect to wrap up that top four? LME, let me start with you.
Well, I wrote a prediction piece months ago, and it was kind of like trying to just predict what's going to happen. And I think I had Newcastle there. So I think I'm going to stick with that, because I think even a draw against Arsenal might be okay for them. So I think that Newcastle should be okay. Now, the rest is interesting, because Chelsea and Forest have to face each other. So, even though Forest have, by the way, not making Champions League, they still have confirmed European competition for the first time since 94-95. That is remarkable for a team that was deducted points back in March last year, escaped relegation by 6 points last season, et cetera, et cetera. So, they'll be up for it. It'll be the last home game at City Ground of the season against Chelsea, so we'll have to wait and see. Villa have to win both games, and then they have to expect that hopefully some points are dropped. And Man City, I think they'll make it, but I don't think it's going to be as clear as cut, because I don't know how much the FA Cup final is going to take out of them. Bournemouth is not necessarily going to be an easy fixture. And despite Fulham dropping a little bit, neither it is. So I do see Newcastle getting it. I think Man City are going to get it. I have to go with my heart here, and I have to believe that Aston Villa are going to do it. I think we're going to do it. I think that Chelsea are going to drop points against Nottingham Forest. And I think that Villa will win both games, because they're playing Tottenham and Manchester United. And I think just because of that, I think it's going to happen. But Newcastle for sure. I think a draw is enough for them against us.
Yeah, Don. Well, Chelsea also have 1 or maybe 1.5 eyes on their final in European football as well. So
good point.
Could that also affect their Premier League form? What do you think, that they could drop some points and LME's villains will get in there?
Well, they've only got 64 million players to choose from in the conference. So I think with their 7 goalkeepers, and 14 wingers, I think they might be okay in the conference final. Yeah. I've got the league table in front of me. The best that Villa can do is get to 69. So they're on 63 at the minute. They win the 2 games, they can get to 69. The Chelsea-Forest game, or the Forest-Chelsea game at the last day of the season, that's going to be huge. Yeah. I think Forest probably beat Chelsea. Therefore, I think probably Forest and Chelsea might miss out. So I think with Villa, because I think they'll get a win tonight, and I think they'll win on the last day of the season, so they might be on 69. The only thing that might harm Aston Villa, so when I was saying earlier about tonight might not be a 4 or 5, they need a 5 or a 6 or a 7, because the only thing that's harming Villa, is their goal difference. So they can get to 69. The goal difference is slightly weaker than everyone else, but I'm going to stick with LME, my man, and I'm going to say Forest will beat Chelsea on the last day of the season, and you'll just squeak through. But it's going to be tough. Newcastle getting there. I don't even mind. My worry for Newcastle is their away form is not particularly great, and they've panicked me slightly. They got battered against Villa 4-1 a couple of weeks back. Useless in that game. They scraped a good point against Brighton away last week, which is a vital point. Best I think they can do against Arsenal, even though I think they beat them 3 times this season, all comps. I think the best they can do is a point. But if they then beat Everton at home on the last day of the season, which I think they will do, is they should easily get to sort of 69, 70. So, to answer your question, LME, you're going to be top 5. You're going to be Champions League football next season. And you're going to be playing with either Spurs or Man United. And which one is going to be that's going to be joining you? Yeah.
God bless you, Don. I know the Champions League doesn't sound so great now when you tell me about it.
No.
And by the way, just very quickly, how much of a shambles Man United and Tottenham have been this season? It's the first season in this format that no Champions League teams have dropped down into the Europa League. Otherwise, there'd been history long time ago.
Yeah, well, it looks like LME might be hoping my boys of Manchester United could do him a favor against Chelsea. So that would definitely help, but don't count on it, LME. But Don just gave me the perfect segue right there in terms of a really quick preview for Arsenal going up against Newcastle. As Don mentioned, Newcastle have been an absolute thorn in Mikel Arteta and the Gunners' side, especially this season. They're going up against each other. Still, some stakes are high, mainly for Newcastle, as we pointed out. How do you see this one going?
Kind of like what Don was saying, right? Newcastle have done a remarkable job over Arsenal this season. The 2 legs in the Carabao Cup, and obviously the win at St. James's Park as well. And it would be the first time in Arsenal's history, if they lose, where somebody's won 4 times against them in a season. I don't see it happening for the same reasons that Don was talking about. Newcastle are formidable at home. Away from home, they're inconsistent. And they're not as solid. And against Arsenal, I believe their record is not great. If you have to include even all the 20 matches, I believe it's only one result out of those last 20. So everything really points to Arsenal here. The issue, though, is that, as you mentioned, Alexis, this is not necessarily a very strong-willed Arsenal right now that are kind of like, with one leg trying to get over the cross line after obviously losing in the Champions League as well. So it might be tricky, but there are key injuries as well for Newcastle. No Botman, Joelinton remains out as well. Kieran Trippier's not playing. So everything's really going to fall to the hands once again of Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, Murphy, of course, etc. But I think Arsenal and Newcastle, I think I see a draw in this one, though, just because I'm not as convinced with Arsenal as of recently, despite of what's happening historically. So I see a draw, and 69 points is the marker for me, and both get into the Champions League.
All right. Well, there it is. We will leave it at that then. Oh, what an interesting night tonight that I will be happily watching in my from home.
Yeah, yourself to the grid.
I traveled all the way up from London to Manchester last Thursday to watch United against Athletic Club de Bilbao on my birthday.
Okay, you deserve it. You stay at home, Alexis.
So I chose to potentially go through severe emotional turmoil live and direct on my birthday. So I've already paid my dues today.
Well, it was still emotional, even though you were 3-0 up. It was so stressful.
Don, when Athletic Club scored that first goal,
yeah, it was a bit nerve-wracking. Yeah.
You just knew what the meltdown in my head. So I have to. When they say you have to choose your battles, I didn't have it in me today to choose this battle.
Happy belated, by the way. I'm glad you got your win.
That's the Man United players. They're choosing their battles, aren't they?
Exactly. The players are choosing their battles, and we'll see if they choose one against Chelsea tonight, and we'll see if Spurs choose one against Villa tonight. We'll be definitely talking a lot more about the Premier League and how it pans out on ESPN FC Live. But let's stick with Arsenal as you bid us adieu. We're going to leave you with something really nice here. You can get to know Martin Odegaard a bit better because we got to catch up with him to talk about some stuff off the pitch. Have a listen.
What's your favourite London phrase? Are there any words or phrases that any Londoners here in the club are using that you've picked up yourself?
I guess in it. No?
In it?
In it.
Do you use that?
Not really, but sounds cool though. Maybe I need to start using it.
Is there one you use?
I think mate, bro.
Yes, bro.
That's probably like, I feel like everyone just goes mate or bro all the time.
Are there any English dishes, food, you'd recommend to your Norwegian friends?
I like a Sunday roast.
Yeah,
Sunday roast is good, yeah.
Yeah, I love that as well.
Yeah, it's good.
When you see people wearing Martin Odegaard shirt with 8 on the back, how does that make you feel?
Proud, I think. Yeah, it's the best feeling, when you feel that support, from fans. And yeah, you see people all over the world, with Arsenal shirts, and my shirt personally is top, yeah. As
captain, how do you hype the squad before a big match, especially as well? Do you have any little go-to phrases yourself or any?
I think, to be fair, it's a bit depending of the moment and the game. Some games I feel like the team might need like someone to calm us down or like get in the right mood, the focus. Other times we need to get a bit more hyped. Just trying to read the room, and feel the moment and say what I feel like is right to say for that day and that game. And yeah, it changes a lot, to be fair.
Is it something you're conscious of? Like, I really need to get the guys. Do you feel the responsibility is yours?
Well,
teammates help you out?
It's not something I think too much about. I always have, just before kickoff, we have a little team huddle there, and I say a few words. But it's something that comes natural, like in the dressing room, we're talking a lot, and it's not like something I plan or anything. It just, comes to me in a natural way, I guess.
Natural. So, captain, man. Have you had any fan moments that have really stuck with you? Like, are there an emotional experience, something unexpected?
I don't know, it's hard to remember now, like moments, but I think it's just general feeling when you feel that support and the love. I have to say the last game, Madrid game at home, the atmosphere, the support we felt, and it's just unreal, to feel that and to play in front of the stadium like that is, unbelievable.
I'll tell you what, the atmosphere in the pub was absolutely mad.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I was leading the charge. I've just got my voice back.
That's good.
I'll go again next week. Do you ever sing North London Forever?
Yeah.
At the game, before the game, at training, do you ever see yourself singing that song?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes on before the game, I love that song. I love the atmosphere, and sometimes I sing along a little bit, before the game starts, so Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
If you could take one skill from any of your Arsenal teammates and add it to your game, what would you take? And from who, from why?
I would love to be a little bit quicker, you know, so Martinelli's pace.
Yeah, it's rapid.
Yeah.
You're stuck in a lift for 12 hours. Which 2 Arsenal players do you not want to be stuck with?
Not want to be stuck with?
Yeah, not.
Zinchenko. He's going to talk too much. And the other one, Big Gabi, is going to take too much space, you know, so it's going to be tight, so those 2.
You're good in tight spaces though.
Yeah.
All right, so you're a manager in 2050. Yeah. Who's going to be your assistant coach from the current Arsenal team?
I'll bring Kai, you know, on the journey, get him assistant manager there.
Do you reckon he's likely to be a coach in the future?
Nah, I don't think so, but for the vibes, you know, I'll bring
Vibes,
him. Yeah.
Vibes FC.
Yeah.
What's the most random item in your kit bag?
Like away trips, I always bring glasses and they block like blue lights.
Oh, is
I put
it?
them on in the evening. That's the most random, I would say.
Does that stop you from like getting tired and?
Yeah, helps you to sleep, they say, so why not try it?
Does it work?
Yeah, I sleep well, so I'm happy.
If you could bring back one former Arsenal player to play alongside you right now, who are you picking?
The natural one to say, I would say, is Henry.
That is a bit of a route one answer. That's a...
Yeah, but I loved Fabregas, and I also loved Cazorla. I'm gonna go Fabregas, man.
What is it about Fabregas' game that you like? Do you see any similarities between you two as well?
I mean, we play same position, and yeah, we both like to get on the ball, you know, and try to make things happen. But I always watched him when I was young, and the way he could like dominate the game, you know, with the ball, his engine, how he controlled the pace of the game, you know, is next level. So it would be cool.
Who was your football idol growing up, and did you ever get to meet them?
It was like different stages. It was Messi at the point, Ronaldo at the point. Then I was a big fan of David Silva as well, Fabregas, as I mentioned. I had like a lot of players I was watching, you know, on YouTube all the time and tried to learn. So it wasn't like one, but to be fair, I've played against them or met them later in my career, you know, pretty much all of them. So it's pretty cool.
Pretty much all of them. Just a little light flex. Which teammate is the most intense in training? Like they give it 100%. They treat it like it's a final.
There's quite a few, to be fair. I'm gonna go Ben White.
By yourself.
Yeah, as well.
You set the standard. What you do?
I try, you know, every day in training to be the best level, and I think you have to train like you play, you know, to be ready. So I think we all try to do that. But yeah, Ben White is a good trainer.
Which teammate is secretly amazing at another sport?
I think Declan is good at golf.
Yeah, I've seen that actually.
Yeah, I know he plays a lot.
Gabby Martinelli earlier told me that he started paddle, but he's rubbish.
Yeah.
He told me he's
yeah,
terrible.
I played paddle a little bit as well.
How are you?
Yeah, decent.
You sure?
not top, but it's okay.